Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here with a quick update in the Tim Norman case. And for those of you who are not familiar with Tim Norman, he is the son of Robbie Montgomery, who is most known for her restaurants in the St. Louis, Missouri area titled Sweetie Pies, and they also had a television show on the OWN network called Welcome to Sweetie Pies. And so this case involves Tim and a conspiracy to commit murder for hire in the death of his nephew, Andre Montgomery, who was killed back in 2016, I believe it was. Tim has been arrested and charged in Andre's death, along with co-conspirators Terica Ellis and Travell Hill. And there's a fourth person, Wael Yagnan, who has been charged. He was an insurance agent that sold Tim or helped Tim acquire life insurance policies that Tim later tried to collect on in Andre's death. And so he is out on bond, but the other three are still locked up. They've been denied bond. So there was a status hearing that took place today. It was a typical status hearing. They're just checking up with the prosecution and the attorneys, making sure that they're all on the same page and that they understand, how this case is progressing. The most important thing that they talked about in this hearing today is that they want to set aside time in which the defense team, so each person, Tim has his own attorneys, Terica has her attorneys, Yagnan has his attorneys, and Travell has his attorneys. And so they wanted to set aside 60 days for the attorneys to file motions in an attempt to strike down charges that are in the indictment. And then there's another 60 days that'll take place where the prosecution can argue against whatever motions that they file. And so there'll be a little back and forth going on. So the next status hearing is set for July, in which they will come back together, have another update. The judge would have made her rulings on any motions that have been filed. And so from the looks of things, this trial probably will not happen, I'm thinking, until maybe 2022 at the earliest. They've already ruled out the speedy trial. The defense cannot request a speedy trial because they're saying that this case is so complex that it took them 4 years to actually be able to bring forth the indictment to charge them. And because there's, 4 people involved, there was, Tim was in California, Terica, I believe, was in Mississippi or somewhere, but all these people were communicating with each other. So they're saying that it's just too much going on for them to consider a speedy trial. And this, in fact, means that they can delay this trial and drag this trial out for as long as they want to. And that will help them in the process of, if they want, if anybody wants to turn against the other person, that'll give them time to work out negotiations and get more information. And so that was the gist of the status hearing that happened today. And I had brought you guys a video, I believe it was back maybe November, I think it was in November, where I told you that the federal government had decided that they were not going to pursue the death penalty. And I thought that was for all 3 of them. Not, the Yagnan guy I don't think would have been facing the death penalty, but for Tim, Terica, and Travell, where it turns out that it did not include Travell. And so that made me say, okay, maybe they are going to, we already know that Travell is probably the gunman that actually killed Andre. Well, they came back a few weeks ago and said that they're not going to pursue the death penalty for Travell either. I don't know if that means that, he is going to, cop to actually being the trigger man, if he is going to turn against Tim. Not sure, but for some reason, those 2 were separate. And now they've said that they're not going to pursue it for anybody. And part of the hearing today, they basically dismissed the attorneys that had joined the teams, the prospective teams, in the event that they did go that route. So now that they're not, those attorneys are no longer needed, and so they have been dropped from the case. And so, speaking of attorneys being dropped from the case, one of the questions that came up when Tim was initially arrested was whether or not Miss Robbie was going to hire him a lawyer, pay for his defense, that type of stuff. And she did hire Tim a lawyer and paid, a retainer fee, but Tim actually fired that lawyer a couple of months ago, filed a motion that he was removing this guy off the case and ordering the guy to return to Miss Robbie any of the retainer that was remaining, any money that was left on the account, for that money to go back. And then the attorney came back and removed himself from the case. So Tim has since hired a new legal team, and so they seem to be doing their job. They filed a couple of motions. Of course, with the government, that doesn't mean a lot because they have the final say. But one motion that they filed was that they wanted to get discovery on the Jinx Act. And you guys know the Jinx Act is basically discovery involving interviews with law enforcement, any statements that people have made, witness statements, anyone who is, planning to give the government, become a government witness in the case, that information, the names of those people. And so they were asking for that information, but the judge ruled that in terms of the law enforcement interviews, there was nothing substantial, that Tim needed at this moment, that he was being premature in asking for that information. So they struck that down. And then for the other information that they were looking for, they were basically saying that because it is protected under the Jinx Act, that he will not get that information until, I believe it's 2 weeks before the actual trial date. And since we don't have a trial date, we don't know when they will get that information. And so I believe those were the only things that really came up over the past few months since I last brought you guys an update. Because they're not going to do the speedy trial, they could basically drag this on forever. But it will be interesting to see those motions that get filed, challenging the indictment and the charges against these three, to see if they are able to get any of these charges thrown out. So that's it for me. Go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.